you know, as I said, this is an Ivy chapter. Mommy, is Daddy famous? All the people at the party tonight were acting like he's maybe famous. Yes, he's very famous, dear. Probably the most famous person in the world. Because he's the boss of everyone? Or because he did a Dragonslayer a long, long, long time ago? Dragonslayer, Ivy, yes. Well, partly because he's the lord of the town, but mostly because he's the only Dragonslayer alive today. And it wasn't that long ago. Wait, I thought Uncle Stone Dragonslayer too. Slayer, Ivy. No, Uncle Stone didn't slay the dragon. He was just there when it happened. What does slay mean? It means Daddy poked the dragon very hard until it fell over and didn't get up again. Mommy, I know about hunting. You mean like the way you poke squirrels and rabbits with arrows to get us dinner? Yes, sort of, but he didn't eat the dragon afterwards. Why not? Humans don't eat dragons, silly bean. Also, he kind of had to run away in a hurry from the other dragons. Other dragons? Why didn't Daddy slayer them too? There were quite a lot of them, Ivy, and dragons are very big. I want to see a dragon. No, you don't. We're safe down here, far away from all the dragons. Your father keeps us all safe. Why is Uncle Stone yelling at Daddy about running away from the dragons? Did he want Daddy to slayer all of them? No, your uncle just gets sad sometimes, and then he thinks about that night and gets upset. Why upset? I'll tell you when you're older, Ivy. Mommy, Ivy, go to sleep. Were the other dragons mad at Daddy? I think maybe slayering a dragon is not very nice. I bet that dragon did not like getting poked until it fell over and couldn't get up again. It's an animal, Ivy. It doesn't have feelings. Mommy, you know how Daffodil has a pet rabbit? Do you think I can have a pet dragon? Ivy was born in the hidden city of Valor, years after the dragons burned their village to cinders and tried to hunt them all into extinction. She spent her childhood in the cramped tunnels that the survivors and Dragonslayer followers had hollowed out of the earth, the only place where the dragons couldn't find them. Of course, in her dad's version of the epic tale, the decimated village and vengeful dragons rarely came up. Instead, he talked about the obsidian-tipped sword he'd found and how he drove it into the dragon's eye. He described the yellow dragon's fierce roar and the fire that scorched the sand around them as they fought, and he rolled up one sleeve to show the burn scars that covered half his body. But his favorite part of the story, the part he never skipped, was boasting about cutting off the poisonous tip of the dragon's tail. He'd bring people over to see it, day or night, even long after bedtime. Even people who'd already seen it 1,000 times. It sat preserved in a glass box in the family's living room and gave Ivy nightmares. The other girls in Ivy's class refused to sleep over at Ivy's after Violet said, "What if one day it comes to life?" And then Daffodil said, "Or a whole other dragon grows out of it, like how lizards can grow back from their tails." And Violet said, "Or what if one of us accidentally sleepwalks into it and gets all poisoned?" And all the other girls went, "Ooh." Ivy thought these were quite reasonable fears. It really was the creepiest room decoration ever. It had a dark crust of blood along one edge and a barb gleaming with venom that curled like a scorpion's stinger. She didn't understand why anyone would want to look at it even once, let alone keep it in a fancy box on a tapestry-covered pedestal where one's daughter would have to see it every day. But Mother thought it was fine. Mother always saw Father as a hero, even when he was snoring loudly in his hammock or complaining about the smell in their cave mansion, which turned out to be coming from a pair of his wool socks that he'd stuffed under the rug and forgotten about. Mother repeated everything he said to anyone who would listen, even when she had to know some of it wasn't true. At around the age of 6, Ivy started noticing all the things that weren't true. That was confusing enough. But what was even stranger was how nobody else seemed to notice or care. Like when her father told the citizens of Valor that he was going to expand the cave tunnels so there would be many safe and well-built ways to get to the underground lake. And then a year later, he pointed to the one tunnel that had always been there, the one Mother and a team of other moms had dug out on their own years ago. And he told everyone that he had shored it up and made it safer and bigger and better. And everyone said that was amazing, and he was amazing, and named it Dragonslayer Way, even though it was exactly the same as before. Didn't everyone see that it was exactly the same as before? Didn't they remember the women who'd worked so hard on it? Ivy was still only little, but she remembered carrying dirt in baskets when she was 4 years old, back and forth in a line of children. She remembered her mother talking about how much safer it would be for everyone when they could get water without leaving the tunnels. She remembered her father rolling his eyes and scoffing at the silliness of the plan. But now, he said it was his plan, and it was named after him, and everyone nodded and cheered, even Mother. It made Ivy wonder a little bit whether her brain was working all right. She wanted to ask questions, but questions always made her parents frustrated and grumpy with her, and her teachers only said things like, "That's not in the curriculum, Ivy," or "You'll understand when you're older," or "Why don't you sit quietly and do another math worksheet, dear?" When she was 7, she had a sweet teacher named Miss Laurel, and she thought maybe she'd try again. She waited until recess, when the children were all sent to run to the underground lake and come back with a bucket of water, and then she approached the teacher shyly. "Miss Laurel, can I ask you a question?" "Of course, Ivy." Miss Laurel gave Ivy a smile that looked tired in the torchlight and patted the ground beside her. "Did you hear my dad's speech last night?" Ivy sat down and picked up a scrap of paper that had fluttered out of her book. "In the Great Hall? Yes, everybody did. It was a mandatory gathering. Do you know what mandatory means?" "That everybody has to go, except kids, but Mother brought me anyway." "Oh," Miss Laurel's forehead wrinkled. She took Ivy's hand and squeezed it between hers. "Did it scare you, sweetheart?" Ivy thought about the flickering torches, the shouting crowd, the boy in the green uniform standing beside her dad with his hands tied in front of him. Should it have been scary? Mother always brought her to banishments. Ivy usually fell asleep on her shoulder, wishing they could have had a normal bedtime instead. But this time, she'd stayed awake and listened. This time, she sort of knew the boy in trouble. He was one of the nice wing watchers who brought peaches to the school. Daffodil said he had cute hair, and she was going to marry him one day. "I guess it was mostly confusing," Ivy said. "I didn't understand what Daddy was saying." "He was saying that Pine was a danger to the community," Miss Laurel said gently. "Pine went to the old village and scavenged in the ruins. If any dragons had been watching, he could have led them right back to us." Ivy took a deep breath. "But Daddy goes to the old village all the time," she said. Miss Laurel's face did something strange, like all her expressions were falling off of it at once, so it looked like a mask for a moment. "I'm sure that's not the case," she said finally. "He does," Ivy said. "He brings things back, spoons and horseshoes, and other stuff." Miss Laurel patted her head. "Aren't you lucky to have such a brave father to take care of you?" "But Miss Laurel, why can my dad go there whenever he wants? But Pine went there once, and now he's banished from Valor forever." "Perhaps you've misunderstood where he goes, dear. Anyway, he's the Dragonslayer and Lord of Valor. They're his laws, so he can't possibly break them." "I think Daddy made up the law after Pine went there," Ivy said firmly. Miss Laurel stood up. "That's silly, Ivy. You'll learn more about how laws and lords work when you're older. Now you better hurry if you want to have time to play." Ivy sighed. Miss Laurel was just like the other grown-ups after all. She ducked through the classroom door into the tunnel outside and made it about 3 steps before she was suddenly seized and dragged into a different classroom. "Hey," she yelped. "Shh." Daffodil covered Ivy's mouth with her hands. As always, her long dark hair was tied into pigtails with bright yellow scraps of fabric, which matched her bee pollen yellow tunic. Ivy had once heard her mother say that Daffodil's mother dressed her like that so everyone would remember the sunny flower her daughter was named after, and then hopefully forget Daffodil's actual dreadfully strong personality. Ivy realized that Violet was in the otherwise empty classroom as well, sitting on one of the tables carved from the rock and blinking owlishly. Violet and Daffodil were the loudest girls in her year and best friends whenever they weren't absolutely furious with each other. Daffodil practically vibrated with energy when she had to sit still, and Violet made up all the best pretend games. Ivy's mother often said, "Those two are not my favorite children." But there were only so many kids Ivy's age in the underground city, so Mother couldn't exactly stop her from playing with them. "We heard you talking to Miss Laurel," Daffodil said, in a stage whisper that could have been heard on the far side of Valor. "You heard her," Violet said. "You made me go get all our water buckets." She waved one hand at 3 buckets of water lined up beside her. Wow, Ivy said. Did you carry all of those at the same time? Yes, Violet said matter-of-factly. I'm really strong. One day, I'm going to get super tall and lift the roof off the whole city, and then we won't be underground anymore, and it'll be very shiny and smell nice, and everyone will say, thank you, Violet, you're so great. And I will say, you are so welcome, what else can I lift? No, they'll say, thank you, Daffodil, because I was the one who even told you to do that in the first place, Daffodil said, putting her hands on her hips. No, Violet argued, I thought of it myself, you did not. It was my idea, Daffodil said. I said you could lift off the roof. I said it yesterday. But I thought of it the night before that. I just hadn't said anything about it yet. Ivy could see that this was nosediving into one of Daffodil and Violet's epic fights, which turned the whole classroom into a war zone at least once a week. She edged toward the door. I should maybe... Look, you're scaring her away, Daffodil said, pouncing on Ivy and dragging her back into the classroom. I think you're scaring her away, Violet objected. Ivy, Daffodil said, heroically ignoring Violet, you were asking Miss Laurel questions about Pine. Yes, Ivy admitted. She tried to remember whether Daffodil had been at the banishment. She didn't think so. The bright yellow would have been hard to miss. Is he really gone? Daffodil said. Never ever to return? I think so, Ivy said. But why? Daffodil wailed, throwing herself to the ground. She flopped onto her back with one arm dramatically over her face. My life is ruined. Did your dad say he had to go let himself get eaten by dragons? Violet asked. No, Ivy said. He just said Pine had to leave and never come back. Violet said. So like almost the same thing. Violet, you are so mean, Daffodil shouted. How dare you say my boyfriend will get eaten by dragons? He's not your boyfriend, Violet said. He is very old, like 17 maybe even. But he could have been when I grow up if he wasn't banished forever. What did he do? Violet asked Ivy. Yeah, Daffodil said, sitting up abruptly. You told Miss Laurel your dad does the same thing all the time. Well, I thought so, Ivy said, but Miss Laurel said I must have misunderstood. That is such a grown-up thing to say, Violet said, rolling her eyes. Did you guys know that there's a law saying nobody's allowed to go to the old village? Ivy asked. What? No, there isn't, Violet said. What old village? Daffodil asked. The one the dragons burned down, Violet said impatiently, where everybody used to live. I knew that, Daffodil barked. I mean, what do you mean the old village? Like, what law? It was a good question, shut up. Saying shut up is not nice at all, Violet said, turning up her nose. That's bullying. You're bullying me. No, you, Daffodil started, and Ivy quickly interrupted. I never heard of a law like that before, she said. Me neither, said Violet. My dads work on laws and orders with your dad, and I know they've been to the old village. They brought me a half-burned doll and said maybe I could fix it to make it pretty, but that sounded boring. So instead I pretend she's a furious ghost who haunts the ruins waiting to get her revenge on the dragons. Yes, Daffodil cried, running to the wall and bouncing off of it and running back and slicing the air with an imaginary sword. Fight me, dragons. But that's all Pine did, Ivy said. She would get through this conversation, no matter how easily distracted the other two were. She had never tried telling other kids about the weird things she noticed in the world. Maybe they would say something a grown-up had never said. Pine did what? Violet asked. Fight a dragon? Daffodil chimed in. No, he went to the old village. That's why he got banished, because there's a law that says you can't. They stared at her for a long moment, the quietest Ivy had ever seen them. She waited for Daffodil to poke Violet in the stomach and run away giggling, or for Violet to explain why Ivy was wrong. That's not right, Violet said finally. There is no law like that, which means someone made up an unfair reason to get rid of Pine. That's grown-up lying, which is worse than kid lying. I don't like that. Me neither, Daffodil agreed. Lies, she added in a dramatic stage whisper, peering through her fingers. Ivy shivered, half in awe and half in terror. Nobody ever said the Dragonslayer was lying. Okay, I'll stop there. No!